So, you're getting ready to enter the 2026 fresher job market, and on paper, things have never looked better. But if you're like most graduates, it probably feels more like a black hole, right? You're sending out applications and hearing nothing back. Well, we're going to break down this paradox and figure out what is really going on.
Okay, so let's kick things off with the good news, because there is good news. Companies are absolutely on a hiring spree for fresh talent. We're seeing this huge jump in entry-level jobs, especially in tech. But is it really as good as it sounds?
11%. That is a massive year-over-year increase in fresh hiring. And get this, to put it in perspective for you, nearly half, 45% of all planned hires are for freshers. Just in tech, companies are looking to fill 1.5 lakh roles. So yeah, the jobs are definitely out there.
And yet, here's the reality for so many of you. You send out 20, 30, maybe even 50 applications, and what do you get back? Crickets. A total ghost town. It's incredibly frustrating. So what on earth is causing this massive disconnect? Well, welcome to what we're calling the Freshers Paradox. It's this bizarre situation where there are more jobs than ever, but it feels like there are fewer opportunities. And you know what? Both of those things are actually true. So in this explainer, we're going to dive deep into why this is happening, and more importantly, what you can do about it.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll unpack that freshers paradox. Then, we'll decode the entire hiring process. We'll talk about the huge shift to skills over degrees. After that, we'll look at the modern hiring landscape, and we'll wrap up with a concrete 3-month action plan to help you land that job.
Okay, Section 1, the Freshers Paradox. So why is it that more jobs doesn't automatically mean more interview calls? Well, the answer, when you boil it down, is actually pretty simple. It's the sheer, mind-boggling scale of the competition.
Think about this number for a second. For every single fresher role that's posted, a company gets somewhere between 500 and 1,000 applications. That's you against 1,000 other people. When you're dealing with that kind of volume, companies have no choice but to be absolutely ruthless with how they filter candidates.
And this is what that filtering looks like. We call it the hiring funnel. So you start with 1,000 applicants. Right off the bat, maybe only 50 to 100 even get past the first automated screening. From that small group, only 10 to 20 will pass the online assessment. Then, maybe 1 or 2, just 1 or 2, make it through the technical interview. And in the end, 1 person gets the job. The odds are just brutal. We're talking a conversion rate of 1, maybe 2%.
So, the big question is, how do you beat those odds? It's not enough to just know that this funnel exists. You have to know how to navigate it, how to clear each level. So let's decode this thing step by step.
All right, say hello to your first boss level, the Applicant Tracking System, or ATS. Seriously, think of it as a robot gatekeeper. This is an automated system that scans your resume for keywords, long before a human ever lays eyes on it. So your very first challenge isn't to impress a person, it's to impress a machine.
So how do you do that? You've got to be super specific. A vague line like, proficient in Python programming, that's basically an instant rejection from the ATS. But if you list out the exact skills they're asking for in the job description, Python, SQL, AWS, React, APIs, and then you back it up with proof, like a link to your GitHub, now you're talking. Your chances of getting past that robot just went way, way up. Okay, so here's your cheat sheet for beating the competition at each stage. For the ATS, you've got to target your resume with specific keywords. For the online assessment, don't just rush through it. Go deep. Treat it like your first project for them. When you get to the technical interview, think out loud. Show them how you think. And finally, for the HR round, do your homework. Know the company, know the role, and know yourself.
All right, let's talk about what is probably the single biggest mindset shift you need to make. Because in 2026, the old rules are just gone. It's not about your college brand anymore. It's not even about your grades. The new rule of the game, plain and simple, is skills over degrees.
Just look at this. It says it all. You've got candidate A, top of the class, 90% academic score, knows all the marketing theory from the textbook. Then you have candidate B, average score, but they went out and built a t-shirt business that did over 1 crore in sales. Or maybe they built an app that got 10,000 downloads.
So, who do you think gets the job in 2026? It's not even a contest, right? It's the person who can prove they've applied what they know to get real-world results. That's the ball game right there.
And here's the core reason why. Your degree, it's just a proxy. It's an indirect signal that you might be a good employee. But a real-world project, That's direct proof. It doesn't just show what you know, it shows what you can do. And that's what companies are really hiring for.
Okay, so we've got the mindset down. Now let's zoom out and look at the actual landscape. Where are all these opportunities? Because you need to know that not all companies are created equal. Broadly speaking, you can split the market into two big camps. About 3/4 of all fresher jobs are with the massive IT service companies. You might have heard them called the witch companies. The other 25%, that's split between GCCs, which are basically the Indian offices of big global companies, and of course, startups.
Now, this is where you need to pay attention, because it's all about the trade-offs. The witch companies, they hire in huge numbers, and the bar is a bit lower, but the salaries are pretty standard. Then you have the GCCs. Think Google's India office. The hiring bar is incredibly high, but the pay is fantastic, anywhere from 6 to 18 lakhs. And then there are startups. They're a bit of a wild card on salary, but they absolutely demand real project experience and give you a super fast-paced, flexible culture.
All right, we've covered the why and the what. Now for the how. How do you actually stand out from the thousands of other applicants? Here is your 3-month plan to go from being just another resume in the pile to a standout candidate.
Month 1 is all about the foundation. You're going to identify the roles you want, learn the skills you need, and find a real-world problem that you're actually interested in solving. Month 2 is the build phase. This is where you get your hands dirty, you actively develop your project, you fix bugs, you make it better. And then in month 3, it's time to document and present. You write up your process, your results, and you share it with the world on places like GitHub and LinkedIn.
Because if there's one thing you take away from all this, let it be this. The winning candidate is the one who builds. It's not about having a great idea in your head, it's about execution. In today's market, the person who actually creates something, who builds something, that's the person who wins, period.
And I want you to really let this sink in. The fresher who spends 100 hours building a real project will beat the fresher who spent those same 100 hours just listening in a classroom. Every single time. On-ground performance has officially overtaken academic performance.
So, I'll leave you with this question. In a world where what you can do matters more than ever before, what will you choose to build? The market values action, not just theory. The power is completely in your hands. So, what are you going to create?